welcome to the Pursuit of Healthiness Podcast. I'm your host, Winanda van Delft. I'm a health and mindset coach, spaghetti and ice cream lover, travel junk, and a cat mom. I love conversations that are on a more raw and deeper level. And today's guest is someone who shouldn't even be here according to the doctors. She has experienced death a couple of times and the doctors told her that she would never be able to walk again. They even want to amputate her leg. After many struggles physically and mentally, she is now a master of her brain. She will explain everything in this episode on how to clear stress in 3 minutes or less, because that is something that she had to learn to do after her injuries. Stress would swell up her soft tissue at the back of her neck, preventing blood from going to her brain. That will give her about 3 minutes before she will black out. So Joy is here to share her story and now is stronger and happier than ever. Welcome, Joy. Welcome to my podcast. How are you doing today?
I'm doing so good, Winanda. Thank you for having me.
Oh, I'm so glad to speak with you and talk about everything that you do. I know a little bit about you already, but can you tell a little bit about yourself for the audience?
Well, I have died 6 times in this life. The first time was for 2.5 minutes on the operating table after flying off a cliff on a motorbike. So I am living proof that you only get to die when it's your time. Yeah. And I'm also living proof that incurable means curable only from within. I have been given up on by the Western medical profession on 6 completely unrelated occasions. That's why I'm certified in more than a dozen different healing modalities.
Yeah.
It's been an interesting life.
It is. It's like you have a cat, nine cat lives, how they say.
Yes, it does seem to be that way. Actually, I think it's been very odd. You know, I don't know. Most people, it seems, are born and live a nice life and die and reincarnate. But it seems like I have just jumped from life to life to life in the same body.
Yeah. Do you really feel that way?
Each time I've been returned with different skills and uncommon abilities and perspectives to be able to help other people. Yeah. So it's been my life has crafted me as a channel for divine will.
Yeah. Wow.
I'm best known for teaching how to live more joyfully and less stressfully in 3 minutes or less.
Wow. Okay. Tell me about it.
Yeah, it's important.
Yeah.
So after the bike accident, doctors said I'd never walk again. They wanted to amputate my leg. So I told the doctor I'd not only walk, I'd dance on his grave. And that's how I became a silver medal winning ballroom and Latin dancer.
Wow.
And I was determined. I hated that doctor.
So you used that.
Pardon?
I said you used that as motivation.
I did. I was negatively motivated for a great amount of my life. I'm the kind of person who, if you told me I couldn't do something, I would say, watch me. Oh, and I didn't have a great deal of respect for authority. And at 15, I was an extremely stroppy teenager. And so anyway, I recovered. It took me 7 years. And then I started kicking ass. And I'm from New Zealand. I was raised in the valley where Rivendell was filmed in Lord of the Rings.
Oh.
And so I was doing amazing in the corporate arena. I loved making money. I was really, really good at it. I had at that time a wonderful husband who loved being a house husband and just wanted to support me in making money. So that worked out really well. I convinced him to leave New Zealand, where I was a big fish in a small pond, and move to Australia. And we had a fabulous flat in Elizabeth Bay, watching the Sydney to Hobart yacht races from our balcony, and everything was going really, really well. And then I was hit by a drunk driver at 24. And all of the injuries from the motorcycle accident were reactivated. I couldn't speak without stuttering. I couldn't walk or stand for more than a few moments. I couldn't lift a glass of water with my left hand. I lost 70% of the strength in the left side of my body. But most challenging of all was any time I went into stress, the soft tissue would swell at the base of my neck. Blood would stop going to my brain, and I would have about 3 minutes before I blacked out. Now, I never knew if I was going to wake up from any of those blackouts, so it was a very stressful time.
Yeah.
And
so that isn't making anything better.
And each blackout was causing an oxidative stress wall in my forebrain. So after a couple of years of intermittent oxygen deprivation, I no longer had reliable access to my frontal lobes, and doctors said I'd be dead or brain dead by the time I was 30. So I started studying holistic medicine, and that's why I'm certified in so many different healing modalities. And as I journeyed through these different modalities, I uncovered these amazing skills and tools that I would have given my IT for as an executive. Like how to relax instantly, how to keep a clear head no matter what's going on, how to dissolve emotional trauma painlessly. Winanda, I learned how to reprogram the neurological pathways of my brain to bypass all of the injuries by thinking new thoughts. So in all of the tests that they did a couple of years later to find out, well, just how bad is the brain damage, my frontal lobes test as an autistic child. So in the things that most people consider very easy, I test as, as autistic and not able. But in all of the tests that people consider really difficult, I test as genius. I wasn't able to think forward or remember back. So I taught myself to think up and look down. So at 30, instead of basket weaving, which is what the court-appointed psychiatrist suggested that I do in order to remain a functioning member of society, that was actually very helpful for me. I got to tell him exactly what I thought of him and his profession, and it was quite cathartic. So instead of doing that, I had co-created Australia's first end-user computing support organisation. I was advising state and federal government. I was the first individual ever to be nominated for an IT&T Excellence Award for industry development. So I literally turned that industry on its ear, which was so fun. It was. So, but never in a million years did I imagine that 20 or 30 years later, I can't remember. It was this was in the mid-90s when I received the nomination. And now I teach people how to reprogram their brains for optimal levels of productivity and joy, and how to experience joy regardless of circumstance. Because let's face it, circumstances tend to be pretty challenging, and we don't always get to control what happens to us. But what we can learn to control and what we can choose is how we're going to feel about what happens. And it's this choice that matters, because it's this choice that determines what happens next.
Yes, absolutely. I love it. Oh, I love how the brain works. I've said it a million times, but really, like you can change your mind, you can change your state with that, and you can change everything around you with that. So yeah, I love it. Tell me more about what you do and how you do it.
Well, gosh. So I programmed my brain with a baseline of joy. Basically, when I was reworking my brain and trying to find ways around it, I discovered that our brains are massively sophisticated bioorganic supercomputers, and that there's a lot of programs loaded that are not for our highest good, darling. And often the programs that have been loaded have been done so by people perhaps with our very best interests in their heart, but who also have virus programs running in their software as well, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So we get programmed by society and church and school and the media to believe that we have to look like this and smell like this and own 3 of these and have gone to these schools in order to be happy, successful, or loved.
Doesn't make sense.
And that's not just true. It's just not true. But these programs keep us nicely contained so that we cannot truly experience who it is that we are and step into our power and out of our slavery.
Yeah.
So I started going through the programs. Let me see. So after, I'm just trying to scan what would be the most helpful story to share with you right now.
Because you have a lot. I've seen it.
I do. I have so many.
Yeah.
So But your audience are mostly women.
Yeah.
And so the first thing I want to say is you can do anything. And don't let anybody tell you that you can't, my darling. I kicked ass in that old boys network, and they hated me for it. I remember standing on stage addressing a room full of high-level government and corporate executives and teaching them how to save 45% on all of their end-user computing costs each quarter, saving millions and millions of dollars. And I was getting comments like, that's what happens when you let a woman out of the kitchen. I
Really?
walked in, oh yeah.
What did you say? What did you do?
What did I just
You just kept your head high and stand tall.
Yeah, I knew that they were intimidated by me. I knew that they were afraid of me, and I proceeded anyway. I remember delivering a presentation. I went to the Director General of Health, who was the second highest politician in the land. And I had created a series of traineeships that created literally thousands of jobs in the industry. Well, in the industry that I had created. That's why I received I was the first individual to be nominated for this award for these traineeships. I was so proud. I went in there, I presented this to him, and he said, you know, I've had a hard on ever since you walked in. You will receive all kinds of resistance. Don't let it worry you. How did I respond? Well, I was invited to speak at a big conference about what it's like to be a woman in the computer industry, because there just weren't any. I was the only one that wasn't a secretary or a sales rep. And I told that story about the Director General of Health. I didn't name him, but everybody knew who he was. You can't control what people say about you, my love. You can't. You can't control how people think about you. All you can do is decide how you're going to feel about it and what you're going to do with that information. If you decide that it is not going to affect you, or that it is going to make you even stronger, then it will.
Yeah.
It will. So I achieved all this after, I think the most interesting thing was that these men, these people never knew that the reason I sat to do my presentations was because I couldn't stand. I got known for my fireside chats, because when I was on stage, instead of standing behind a lectern, I would have a chair set up with a nice little table with a glass of water, a little lamp. I would have the computer at eye level, so I looked like I was speaking directly to the audience, where I was just reading from my, the computer.
Yeah.
They never knew. I learned that I had to be twice as good in order to be considered half as good, and that wasn't all that difficult, because these hidebound men could only see what was directly in front of them. If you learn to think in different ways, if you learn to take a step back, like the oxidative stress walls in my forebrain, they look like this, and they still happen a little bit. But I would be going along, and all of a sudden, and I would just hit a wall, and I couldn't see anything. There was only the wall. And I understood why the doctors said I'd be brain dead by 30, because it was really comfortable in front of this wall. There was nothing in front of this wall. It was peaceful. It was quiet. There was nothing to do. It was also boring in front of the wall. And I knew that I couldn't get through it. So what I did was I learned to step back from it. You need an example. Okay, so I was putting out a proposal. I had till 5 o'clock. That was my deadline. And I went to hit the print button, and boom, there was the wall, and the print button was behind the wall. And even though I'd hit that print button a million times, it wasn't accessible to me. I couldn't find it. I couldn't see it. And I sat there with tears of rage pouring down my face until my partner finally came in and hit the damn print button. It was one of the reasons I started the computer support industry, actually. I learned to think around things. I learned if this thought isn't taking me, then the wall can be gotten over or can be gotten round. If you're having thoughts that aren't serving you, if you're having thoughts that make you hit a wall in your life, I can't do this, you will be right. You will be right. Yeah. But if you can step back and get a different perspective, what if I can? What if I could? What would that look like? And begin to think new thoughts. These literally, not just with my injured brain, but with any brain, this is how you begin to craft new neurological pathways that take you out of old thought patterns. I couldn't do it in the environment that I was in after the accident. I lived in Sydney. I just so great in that industry. This was before I entered the computer industry, and everything reminded me that I was no longer able to do any of the things that I could do. My work was everything. I loved making money. I loved building empires. I was so good at it. And all of a sudden, I couldn't do any of it. And I walked with death for 18 months. I woke up in the morning. I never knew if I would see the end of the day. It changed my priorities. It made me look at, okay, so if I died today, which is a pretty good possibility, what am I going to take to God as the sum total of everything that I achieved? Hey, God, I made all this money. I broke through the glass ceiling of every industry I ever entered, and I never consciously hurt anybody. And look at all these things I did, and suddenly everything that I had thought was so impressive just didn't look so crash hot when I took it to God, So I searched until I found something that I would be proud to take to God. And it was, I made each life that I touched more joyful. And that was what I founded my life on.
I love that.
It really worked well. That's why I named myself Joy, as a reminder of what I decided to embody. I need a lot of reminders, and it works really well.
Yeah.
I still need a lot of reminders for just about everything. Navigating the three-dimensional world, it's not easy for me. Figuring out a telephone. I wonder if anybody else can relate to that. Sorry about that, Banana. Doing basic functioning. Anything that involves frontal lobes, cognitive thought. Actually, I'm getting better and better all the time. It's been, I am now literally twice the age that any doctor ever said I would get to. I'm 60. Yes. Yeah, and I'm telling you something. Thank you. I am more powerful than I have ever been. They don't tell you that, ladies. They don't tell you that as you grow older, you can become more powerful, but you are. Your priorities change. You're no longer wondering, oh, do I look good? Or, oh, am I this sort of? No, you start resetting yourself on what's true and what's important. Death taught me so many things. He taught me the difference between urgent and important. And if you want to know that difference, a question that I learned to ask myself is, how will this matter in a year from now?
I love that. I ask myself that question also a lot. To not really get overwhelmed. It's really helpful. Like, it really separates the things that are important to what it's not.
Yes. An enormous pile of dishes is urgent, but it's not important. Exactly. Yeah. I invite you to ask yourself, if I died today, what would I take to God? If you died today, how would you look back at the last few months and how you spent your life? I know this has been an incredibly difficult year. How well have you nurtured yourself? In order to survive all of the things that I've survived, in order to become all of the things that I am, I learned that the most important thing was learning to nurture myself. When the doctors gave me the diagnosis, I'm not gonna lie, I tried to kill myself. Obviously, that didn't work.
You have too many lives.
Oh my God. Well, no, basically, I've still got stuff to do. And if you're alive and watching this, then so do you. So I did the only thing I could think of to do. I killed the person that I was inside. And I built a whole new one from the ground up. I moved from a city of 3 million people in Sydney, and 16 million people, and I moved to a little tiny town, the outskirts of Boca, and I started running a handmade paper mill, and I changed my hair, and I threw out all my clothes, and I changed everything that I could. And then I thought, if I'm creating a new me, I might as well create one that I really like. Because there were aspects of me that I wasn't so keen on. Like the truth had become a bit slippery to me. I no longer was really sure if what I was telling was true or maybe a story, or I didn't like that about myself. So I sat down and I wrote down all of the things that I don't think I want to have in this new part of my life. And then I wrote down the exact opposite. And I heard that in order to form a habit, then you just had to do it for 30 days. So, all right, okay. So taking the lying, for example, every time I heard myself about to tell a lie, I would literally say, I would stop and I would say, cancel, clear. And I would wipe the screen in my mind and I would say the absolute truth. And it was so hard. It was so embarrassing. And it was so effective and so powerful. Now it's hard for me to tell an untruth as it were. I can't do it. I'm terrible at it. And I did this with absolutely everything that I didn't like until I had created somebody that I was pretty darn proud to take to God. Awesome. And then I thought, well, okay, so what next? And I looked around and I started looking at things like, what do I want to have more of? I want to have more compassion. I want to be kinder. So what I learned to do is anytime I want to learn something, I look for who's doing it best. Then I go make myself indispensable to that person and learn by osmosis. That's really good advice. Yeah. You're not set in stone, my love. Anything can be changed. You just have to have the willingness to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. So how did your environment respond to that? Like, I can imagine that a lot of people didn't like you anymore because you were changing or you were doing stuff that they thought was weird or something like that.
My poor husband found himself married to a completely different woman.
How did that result in your relationship?
We divorced.
Really?
No, actually, in that time, no. Let me see if I can access that. There's going to be a whole lot of people who are very unhappy at you changing. These are the people that are very invested in you having the same role in their life. What do you mean you're looking out for yourself now, you selfish person? You just think that that's okay to do this? You're just going to ignore everybody else now? Then you're going to have all kinds of resistance. But let me ask you this. How much of a better person, mother, sister, daughter, employee, employer, friend, whatever, how much better are you when you have given yourself what it is that you need? When you are coming from a place of fullness, how much more able are you to care for everybody? How much of a better role model are you when you stand as an example of what's possible? I didn't want my daughter to grow up in the environment that I'd grown up in. I wanted her to know that she could be and do anything, and that meant standing as an example. People don't listen to what your words are. They watch how you live your life. Yes, you will get a whole lot of resistance. Yes, it will be hard. And it will be worth it. You were born for so much more than you're likely living now. And what kept me going again was death and my friendship with him. Is this the legacy you want to leave? How do you want to be remembered? How do you want to remember you? I have I actually have a death questionnaire that I like to give people in my Creating Your Ultimate Self workshops, and I can provide it to your viewers if you want, because it really helps you look at your life and how it is that you're living. People are so scared of change. You know what I learned? I learned change is just taking what you are and adding choices to it.
I love that.
I know, right? It makes everything just so much easier.
Yeah, absolutely.
And those people that I don't care, I don't want it. Really, what is it about your life? What is the thing that you like so much about your life that it wouldn't benefit from upgrade? In order to have a different anything, you got to do something different. Look here. What do you get when you squeeze an orange?
Orange juice.
Yes. Can you get pickle juice when you squeeze an orange?
Maybe. I don't know.
Good Lord, what sort of oranges do you have in your town, Amanda? Can you get lemon juice when you squeeze an orange?
Nope.
No. Why not?
Because they're different.
Yes, because it's an orange and it can only give you what it's got inside of it. And just like the orange, when
I just
you are green,
I just realized that you said pickle juice. I was still pickled, like if you have like little pieces or something.
oh, yeah.
So that's why I was like, no, it's my fault. I understood it wrong.
Got it. Yes, yeah. The point just slid on by.
Yeah.
Yes. Look, when we're squeezed, when we're in a hard situation, just like the orange, we are going to give what it is that we've got inside of us. And if you have spent your whole life giving to everybody else except yourself, then chances are when you're squeezed, what's going to come out, it's going to be pretty dry and bitter. Get juicy in all the good ways by giving yourself what it is that you need. Hey, you want to know how to take the pressure off every single relationship in your life? Yes. Okay. Give yourself what it is that you need. Stop waiting around for somebody else to do it. You know, how many of us just like give and somebody's going to give me something that I need. Sometime it's going to be my turn eventually. Who's in that position? Come on, hands up here. If you learn to give yourself what it is that you need, then you will not only have it to give, but you're coming from a position of fullness, and anything that anybody else gives you is going to be enough. If you're coming from a position of need, then you're needy, and it shows, darling, it shows.
Yeah.
And it's not attractive. If you're coming from a position of need and somebody gives you something, it's like, oh, thanks. I really wanted a blue one, but it's okay.
Yeah.
When you're giving yourself what it is, you can go get yourself a blue one, and anything anybody else gives you is enough. If you truly want to empower every single thing, person, project in your entire life, here is the secret. Fill yourself up with what you want to give to the world and give from the overflow. If that's all you take from this adventure here with me, then your life will transform.
Yeah. So and you cannot pour from an empty cup.
You can't. You can't give what you don't have. It's not physics. It's not logical. It's not possible.
Yeah.
But we try and until there's less and less and less of us, and then we benefit no one.
True.
I'll give you one more little piece of advice. If that one's too hard, then try this, my precious love. Treat yourself as your own beloved child. Oh, gosh.
Yeah, that's a good one. I always say, like, for example, with health and nutrition or with working out, something as simple as that, I always think by myself, would I give this food to my child, or would I give this food to my pet? If the answer is no, then you should not eat it.
Yes, Exactly. It's amazing the difference that one tiny shift makes.
Yeah.
My goodness. What would happen if we placed a dear little child right in the middle here and said, you are stupid and lazy and ugly and this, and then what would happen to that precious child? One thing we know for sure, it would probably not live its fullest potential at the very least, right?
Yeah.
But what would happen if we placed that same precious child here and told her how amazing she is, how beautiful her is? There's no such thing as a mistake. This is how we learn and grow and explore. And yet, what would happen to that little girl?
You'll be empowered, full of love, and just amazing.
Yes. And how many of us have that precious child inside of us that we spend a lot of time yelling at and then wonder why our lives don't work?
Yeah.
Change the way you speak to that child, and everything in your life will change.
Yes, I love it. Your audio is a little bit different. I can hear you less clear as I did before.
Should I speak more clearly, or
No, it's like there was something in front of the audio or something. I don't know.
I'm over here with my hands up.
Yeah.
Thank you for perfect audio. Again, this is for energy sensitive people or people who are constantly, as you raise your vibration, different things are going to happen. And sometimes that's visible in your electronics. So watch out for, like, if light bulbs are going off or your phone starts going on the fritz or your computer, just for a moment, stop everything you're doing, step back and raise the vibration of your electronic equipment to match your own, and you'll save yourself a lot of money.
Cool. Well, it's funny. I always think that it is a coincidence, but sometimes when I walk outside and it's dark and there is like a lantern that is dark, but sometimes when I walk under it, it goes on, and I'm like, that's my energy.
Yes, it is. Your energy affects your environment. It doesn't just affect you, it impacts everything. And that's why the most important thing that you can do is tend to your energy, is stoke your own flame.
Yeah.
That's really all we ever have to do. And sometimes it can get so overwhelming. I tell you the secret of you want to know the secret to the fast track of enlightenment?
Yeah.
Not my secret to fast tracking enlightenment, because it all sounds just way too overwhelming and no, I don't want to be here. What I do, my life is a constant process of continually evolving into the next grandest version of myself. So I am always perfect in my imperfection. This is how you get to where you want to go more quickly, easily, and with a lot less stress. Continue to evolve into the next grandest version of you.
I love that. I have one last question for you, because you've shared a lot of lessons already and you've went through a lot, but what is the biggest lesson that you can give?
Biggest lesson. Oh, look, there's so many. I will say my website is experiencejoy.com. If you go there and put in your name, I will send you a 15-minute video that shows you how to relax instantly, keep a clear head no matter what's going on, and clear stress from your body. Challenge you, excuse me.
Yeah.
Measure your stress on a scale of 1 to 100. 1 to 10 doesn't cut it because it doesn't give enough wriggle room to find out, this might feel like 72.5% better. No, it gives you more wriggle room. Measure your stress on a scale of 1 to 100 right now, with 100 being and 0 being. And then go to experiencejoy.com, click on that link and watch that video, and then measure your stress levels again when you've finished. And when you find out how well these incredibly simple tools work, share them. Everybody needs to know these things. So I think those are the most important basic structures. These are the foundational things that I do on the regular because they work.
Yeah.
So as for the most important lessons, it depends on who you are and what it is you're going through. But yeah, and if you need more help, then let me know. I guarantee immediate positive results with my work, or it's free.
Yeah. So you already mentioned your website, but how can people find you? Is there any like Facebook or Instagram or Twitter, LinkedIn? I don't know. How can people find you?
I am on Facebook. I'm learning Instagram again. Technology is not my strong point. I am growing my presence and my technical skills. People usually find me because their angels and guides bring them to me. You know, people find me when it's their time to find me, and I don't really do baby steps. The baby steps you'll find on my website, but people find me when they're ready for a quantum leap forward, and they know who they are. So yeah, I'm sort of like,
I get it.
People find me when they've said, okay, that's it. I've had a guts full. I need big help and I need it right now. I want this stuff cleared. I'm done. I know I have a purpose and I need to move forward. So let's just, wow. And that's when I show up on the radar. So that's how people find me.
Okay, amazing. Well, I want to thank you a lot for this conversation. Is there anything else that you would like to share with us?
You are more loved than you can imagine. You are safe. You are protected. You are seen. You are appreciated. Please, my darling, love yourself as a beloved child, because you are.